Hi, welcome to the Garden of Doom again. I wouldn't call it rain or snow or sleet, I'd call it more polystyrene. It's not raining, it's polystyrene in. Anyway, what's on the schedule tonight, folks? Right, let's have a look. Right, I need to get that crank set to fit in the Grifter. There's the old original crank. That obviously fits in that bike there. That's where it comes from. Now, you'll notice that it's already out. And so is this one. So, I've got this one here for comparison purposes. Right, it's not going to sit like that, is it? So, it's going to sit like that. Right, so you can obviously see that this is a square taper bottom bracket. And this is the old Raleigh style. So, how do we get this to fit into hole for that? If you're familiar with this problem, talk about research and scouring the internet for help and how you do it and what you have to do to get this to fit, what you have to do to get it to line up so the chain line works and all the rest of it. The whole point of me having to do this is when I'm travelling around the world on said Grifter, I don't want to be running a cotter pin crank set. There's two issues with it, and the main one is the cotter pins. Sometimes they do wear out and you get a bit of play just like that. So if you're an old school rider and you've got this cotter pin setup, sometimes you're pedaling and you feel a little jolt every time the pedal rotates. It gets that little jolt, and that's this wearing out. Can't feel it. There it is. That's that pin wearing out. That's not my main issue. My main issue is getting this off on the road. As you know, when you travel around the world, there's bits of blue stuff in between the green stuff. It's called the sea, and you can't ride a Grifter across the sea. They don't float, right? So you have to put them on planes, and when you do put them on planes, these have to come out. Not so much the cranks, but at least the pedals have to come out. So what I normally do as a safeguard is I normally take the whole crank set out and put it in the box with the bike. You've got to put a bike in a box. It can't go like that. At least it needs to be wrapped in bubble wrap. I've done that at airports and they've accepted it. Istanbul for one. If you ever travel to Istanbul airport and you need to fly out from Istanbul, just get your bike wrapped up in loads of bubble wrap. They'll do a really good job, and it's actually better than a bike box. And they will take it on board. So that's what I need to do. So I need to be able to get these out on the road. And the trouble with that is the tools you need to get these pins out. I need to take a hammer, I need to take a pin punch, I need to take all the stuff to get that out of the bike. And it can be a pain. So at best it will come out, but I've got to take some pretty heavy gauge tools to get this out. At worst, I can be at a mechanic's place saying, "Excuse me, sir, can you get these pins out of this crank?" And I just don't want the hassle of it all, you know. Look, I'm going on that where I could have, you know, you've obviously guessed by now that I was probably going to go on that bike. You know, it's a fold-up bike. You don't pay for boxes and airfares. You literally just ride up to the airport and fold it up and put it on the flight, and then you unfold it when you get off the other side, you know. With that, it's a bit different. It needs to go in a box. Oh, it's just started polystyrening in again. Don't know if you can see it, but what the hell is it? Anyway, so I want to get a square taper bottom bracket to fit in that. There's one problem. That non-drive side cup is a pig to get out. An absolute pig. Now, if you go on YouTube and search and try and find out how to do that, you get the normal, usual, stupid, really overdone videos with AI talking about how you do this. And basically what you do is you get the cup spanner and undo it. Left-handed thread, undo it, it comes out. Great. What happens if that spanner doesn't do the job? It's not strong enough. What happens if that non-drive side cone is in there a bit too tight? Then what do you do? Then what you do is, I'm going to show you what you do, is you get one of these. Now, everyone knows someone who's got a tin of death. I've got a tin of death because I've been working on cars all my life. So a tin of death is what you it's all the remnants of all the jobs you've ever done and all the bolts that have been left over. All the cars you've worked on over the years, the bolts that get left over. Where does that go? I don't know. Car's working there. It goes in a tin of death. This is actually an American bolt. I did a lot of restorations on American cars, American muscle cars, and this is something off of something I worked on years ago that probably needed new stuff anyway and got renewed. So this is a really strong gauge bolt, strong threaded bolt. You know, you're going to have a big job trying to strip one of the threads on these. But I tell you what, I got pretty bloody close doing this job. I'll just show you how tight I had to do this. I don't know if you can see the state of that nut, that face on that nut. But that just shows you now how tight this had to be. And I mean, I've undone cylinder heads off of cast iron heads on American cars, and they're up around 110, or main bearings, 110 foot-pounds of whatever it is on torque gauges. And this was getting on for that amount of effort to undo that non-drive side cup. So what you do is you put that bolt through that way. I've had to use a nut on this side, on the inside, so I'll just show you how I did it. Now I did try, here's the thing, right, this is how tight that is. I did try and reassemble all this for this video, and then I was going to like fake it and say, oh yeah, God, this is tight, and then it would undo, obviously. But I tell you what, I can just about get that in there as far as it's in now before it starts locking up, and I just can't be bothered to put it in there again and then have to go through this again to undo it. So what you do is just shove that in there like that. Right, most people, when you watch someone do this on the internet, they'll put a washer on there. I tried it with a washer on this side. On this side, I've got a really thick, it's like probably 1/8 of an inch thick washer that went on there. That just bent completely into those little bits of the cup where you have to put that spanner. So in the end, I just thought, right, what about if that nut, if I do that nut up and it touches that face of that, like that, and fits inside the cup edges, right, like that, like it has done, it sort of goes inside there, maybe it will grip onto them and work that way, right? So that's what I try to do. So basically what you do is when you tighten that nut up, it's undoing this because this is left-hand thread. So normally you would spin that way to tighten it up. Let me just get a better angle on the polystyrene covered rug. So normally you would turn that way. A normal thread is that way, obviously, to tighten. Righty, tighty, lefty, loosey. Right, but on this, you tighten it up by going that way. So you undo it by going that way. So tightening that nut up on that bolt means that it's going to grab hold of this. God, my fingers. It's going to grab hold of this and turn it this way, which is going to undo the cup. That's the spanner I used to do it, and I was struggling. That's how long that is. I've seen a lot of people put a normal spanner on there and like have a scaffold bar coming off of it. Have a go at this, right? So what I did was I was giving it all that, and it wouldn't have it. And the nut and the bolt, you saw the state of that nut. The nut was just constantly tightening up on that bolt. It was just non-stop. You saw the state of that inside, the inside face of that nut. This where it's been tightening on this cup. You saw the state of the inside face of that nut. Look at it. Look, it's completely run it clean. There's nothing wrong with these threads on the bolt, so look, the bolt, because that, like I say, that is a seriously tough bolt. But I had that tightened all the way in tight as it'll go. I had it fitted in there, in those gaps, and it would not budge. So what I did, I just flipped that the other way, and I just tried it that way. That way obviously tightens the cup up, and it moved. And as soon as it moved, I knew I'd won the battle. I could undo it. So if you try this and you look at all these YouTube channels that do it this way, and it doesn't work, like it didn't work for me, don't use any washers. When you try and tighten the nut up, you're going to have to put something in the other side to hold the bolt. So, like, you know, obviously something like that with an extension bar on it, you know, to fit through the bottom bracket and hold the bolt while you tighten the nut up. And even when you've got it, you think, as tight as you can get it, you'll come back out at this side with the bar, and you'll try and do this, and the nut, the whole bolt and nut will still spin. So you have got to get that really tight if you don't use a washer. But I think, because I didn't use a washer, this nut sort of grabbed hold of the edges of those cut bits and gripped it and done it and got it. That's why I think it worked for me. But it only worked when I tried to tighten it slightly as well. If you're trying to heave it and it just won't go, and the nut's just tightening up, and you're actually knackering the bolt or the nut, just try and tighten it slightly and it might crack. And use something like, because you can't obviously hit that, you know, and there's flex in that nut as well. So try and use maybe an old spanner or something you can hit, because the shock of you hitting that nut might break it free as well. So what I did was, now I knew that was out, I thought, I looked at this, right, and is it 24 threads per inch or is it 26? I didn't know. So that was another week of trying to find out what thread it was. And thanks to a guy called Neil, I think it was Neil Edwards, he knows his stuff. He really does know his stuff. Anyway, I was chatting to him. I just sent him a random message because I saw on a post someone said, how can I put a modern square taper bottom bracket into a grifter, into my Mark II grifter? I was like, oh yeah, I need to know that. I need to know that as well. And he answered it, and he said, oh, you got to do this because the threads are 24 TPI on a grifter. So that's standard threads. So I sent him a message, and I just asked him, are you 100% sure that they are 24 TPI? Because they might be 26. He said, yeah, I'm pretty sure they're 24. Anyway, I had a good old conversation with him on Messenger and found out loads of stuff from him and had loads of advice. Anyway, so I thought, let me just turn the camera around. So I thought, I know where there's a 24 TPI bottom bracket. It's in Doris. So this is Doris's bottom bracket and crankset, right, which you might remember from the video before. So I thought, why don't I just take that out and see if it'll fit in there. So that's what I did. Right, so what I've done is I've just put the bottom bracket in. I haven't put the non-dry side cup on there. I don't need to. All I'm going for is a measurement. So all I need to do now is just chuck the old square taper crank on and see what happens. You just got to see what happens. Right, so let's just try it. Right, I've fitted the bolt. Because when I checked it last night, I did fit the bolt, and I knew the chain line was a lot better when I did put the bolt in. So just check it out, look. So just as a rough guess, how do I get that to focus in on that? Maybe do it there. I mean, that's doable. That's fine. Nothing wrong with that. So, the lowercase L, aka Lexi. Hello, Lexi. She never meows, she just sort of says, and she always reaches up and tries to grab your fingers. Don't you? Eh? Yeah. Look at that. Come on, Lexi. turned into a bloody Lexi show, ain't it, eh? Oi. Oh yeah, ultimate zoom. So yeah, so this is the only problem I've got. So this is a 68mm bottom bracket, like I said. You can space them out to 73. Look how far in that cup is. That's miles too far in. So basically I've just got to buy the same bottom bracket but space it out to 5mm. I can't believe that all I had to do was just try a bottom bracket off my other bike and it works. I mean, I was even thinking of you know, getting this all, you know, this face of the frame, getting it all like shaved back, like, you know, like 5mm here and or 2mm there 2mm there and 2mm this side to get all this to fit properly and all the rest of it and do all that. No, just put a bottom bracket in and see what happens, you know. So this is getting there. This is getting there now.